Some breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
There are some puzzling developments tonight in the ongoing search for Nancy
Your
Guthrie.
support. It is now day 69 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. It is Friday.
No individual is named as a suspect in this video. There is a woman who has spent decades doing something most people cannot do. She can walk onto a scene that looks like nothing and read it. Not interpret it, not guess at it. Read it the way a doctor reads an X-ray. With training, with methodology, with a professional standard that holds up in federal court. Her name is Maureen O'Connell. She was a special agent on the FBI's evidence response team, not a detective. Not a profiler, the person called in when the stakes were too high to leave forensic processing to anyone else. Mass casualty incidents, presidential security events, federal crime scenes where a single procedural error meant a case collapsed. That was her world for the length of her career. When the drone footage from Nancy Guthrie's property started circulating, most people watched it for movement, for drama, for the moment something clicked. O'Connell watched it for what was happening on the ground, specifically on the driveway. And what she concluded, on the record, by name to a reporter, is something that has not received anywhere near the attention it deserves. She saw one set of tire impressions, one set from the moment that drone went up, and she knows exactly what that means. Nancy Guthrie's property in Tucson has a circle driveway at the front, a looping, curved approach that lets a vehicle pull in and exit forward without reversing. In most contexts, that's just a design feature. But think about it from a purely operational standpoint. A vehicle staged in a circle driveway does not need to back into traffic. Does not need to execute a three-point turn on a residential street where someone might be watching from a window. It enters, it loads, it exits forward-facing at speed with full visibility. If you were planning to move someone quickly and quietly from a property, that is the geometry you want. O'Connell told the journalist Brian Anton directly. The circle driveway is where she believes the vehicle that transported Nancy was positioned, and she gave a specific reason for why the front and not the rear. The back gate was the likely original plan. Something disrupted it. Her reading of the evidence points to a neighbor's dog. In a quiet residential neighborhood at whatever hour this took place, a dog reacting to an unfamiliar vehicle or unfamiliar sounds in the alley behind the property is not a minor inconvenience. Or it is a curtain pulled back, a porch light flipping on, a neighbor stepping outside, a window that closes immediately, so the vehicle moved. Front of the house, circle driveway, and Nancy Guthrie went out the front door. That is the operational picture O'Connell assembled. Now here is the forensic problem underneath it. Nancy's driveway is not concrete. It is not asphalt. It is decomposed granite, the standard desert landscaping material used across the American Southwest. Loose, granular, permeable. It handles the heat, it looks natural, it requires almost no maintenance. And forensically, it is one of the most complicated surfaces investigators can encounter for impression evidence recovery. When a vehicle drives over decomposed granite, it does leave a tire impression. The weight compresses the granules into a pattern. But that pattern is fragile in a way that a mud print or a clay impression is not. Foot traffic disturbs it. Another vehicle shifts it. Wind moves it, temperature cycling breaks it down. The window between the impression being made and the impression being unrecoverable is not long. And in the early days of a high-profile investigation with multiple agencies, multiple vehicles, multiple personnel moving through a property, that window can close quietly before anyone realizes what was in it. To recover a tire impression from decomposed granite correctly, you need oblique lighting. A light source positioned almost parallel to the surface, raking across it at a low angle so that any depression or raised area casts a shadow the camera can capture. This is not optional technique. It is the difference between evidence and nothing. Without it, an impression that is physically present in the surface is photographically invisible. You also need calibrated scale bars placed in frame before anyone else crosses that surface, before the scene is worked by personnel who do not understand that the driveway they are walking across may contain one of the most important pieces of physical evidence in the entire investigation. O'Connell watched the drone footage and looked specifically for that work. The portable lighting rigs, the technicians on their knees at ground level, the systematic grid documentation of the circle driveway surface. She did not see it. She was careful about that observation. She acknowledged directly that the FBI may have conducted that processing at a time when the drone was not overhead, before media presence, during a window of scene access not captured in publicly available footage. She was precise about the limits of what she could conclude from outside the investigation. But she did not see it. And that absence has stayed with her. Because here is what a correctly recovered tire impression from that circle driveway could have produced. The FBI maintains a tire tread database built over decades, covering a substantial proportion of commercially available tires. A clear impression matched against that database can identify a tire model. A tire model narrows the vehicle class. The vehicle class, combined with surveillance footage, witness accounts, and electronic records, can narrow further to a specific vehicle. And a specific vehicle leads to people. That chain starts on the ground in the decomposed granite. It starts in the first hours while the surface still holds what was pressed into it. That chain does not start if the impression was not recovered before the window closed. The investigation has not stopped moving. DNA recovered from a black glove found approximately 2 miles from Nancy's property has been entered into CODIS, the National DNA Database. The profile is searching. Genetic genealogy is standing by as a secondary track, the same methodology that identified the Golden State Killer after 4 decades by tracing a distant relative's public DNA submission through a family tree. If CODIS returns a hit, investigators have a name within hours. If it does not, genealogy takes longer, but the reach is broader than most people understand. Every DNA submission to any public genealogy platform is a potential link in that chain. Excel data is running simultaneously. The FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey team has the capability to map every device that was active near Nancy's property during the relevant window, movement patterns, duration of presence, where the device went afterward. If the person responsible carried a phone that night, and statistically almost everyone does, that phone was logged. A retired FBI supervisory special agent said publicly that investigators likely already have names that have been evaluated. Some cleared, some still in play in ways that are not visible from outside the investigation. What the FBI has confirmed publicly is minimal. That is not unusual for an active investigation. But the gap between what has been formally released and what practitioners like O'Connell are still raising technical questions about is large enough that it carries weight. O'Connell was not speculating for an audience. She was a named practitioner making a specific professional assessment on the record about a real case with a real missing person. She raised the concern carefully, explicitly, with full acknowledgement of what she could and could not confirm from her vantage point. And what she raised is a precise forensic concern with a precise forensic basis. Not emotional, not speculative, technical. The first hours of an investigation determine what physical evidence survives and what does not. That is true of every scene. It is not a failure unique to this case. It is how evidence works, how surfaces degrade, and how time operates on material. The question is always whether the right evidence was identified and protected before the window closed. In the Nancy Guthrie case, that question is still open, and it deserves to stay open until it is answered. If you have information related to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI